the coverages that we need. I taught autistic children. I know that this is a real biomedical disorder, and it needs to have its own insurance code so that families can get the right treatment and also be covered. But the insurance mandate that we passed in this state only cares for 25% of the 1 out of every 110 children that have autism. We need to stop making Band-Aid applications and look at real solutions when we talk about health care. And really, forcing someone to buy something that they don't need is not the way to solve a problem.
Okay, let me rephrase that question again. Is there anything at all that you think the insurance companies should be mandated to cover? Anything?
Anything at all?
Yes.
I think that what we have here is a choice between the free market and Americanism. American is about choices, and we need to allow people to have those choices. The free market will weed out those companies that don't offer as many choices and don't have a cost-effective system. Let the people decide where they want to buy their insurance. You don't have to force them to buy anything, and you don't have to force anyone to offer a product that no one wants.
Okay, so no insurance mandates. Okay, Senator Reid?
Mitch, insurance companies. Insurance companies don't do things out of the goodness of their hearts. They do it out of a profit motive, and they have almost destroyed our economy. 20% of all costs prior to our passing our health insurance reform was because of health care costs. If we didn't do something to change it, it would go up by, in less than 15 years, to 36 cents of every dollar. It would break us. We need them to be forced to do mammograms. That's why you see Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You see the baseball players wearing pink shoes, and you see the football players having pink helmets. It's because people dread breast cancer, and you don't get breast cancer. You correct breast cancer. You detect it if you do mammograms. Colonoscopies. If you do colonoscopies, colon cancer does not come because you snip off the things they find when they go up, and no more. And we need to have the insurance companies do this. It'll save money in the long run to do this.
Thank you. And Mrs. Engel, 30 seconds.
Well, pink ribbons are not going to make people have a better insurance plan. What makes people have better insurance plans is competition. And that's what I've been saying all along, is that we need more competition so that they will cover the things that we need them to cover, because that's the things that we want to buy. That's how the free market works. That's why our solutions reside in the free market. And when we talk about what has destroyed this economy, Obamacare is destroying our economy. I know a company that has laid off 5 people because of Obamacare.
Thank you. This is a straight-up yes or no question. Mrs. Engel, you'll get it first. Do you think the Health Care Reform Act should include coverage for abortions?
No.
Senator Reid?
The law we passed maintained the Hyde Amendment.
That would be a yes or no.
Under the law that exists today, the Hyde Amendment, which has been the law in this country for 30 years, is still there.
Okay, let's move on to the economy, and this is for you, Senator Reid. Nevada has the highest foreclosure rate in the country. Las Vegas has the highest unemployment rate in the country. In fact, the jobless rate has soared 5 percentage points in Nevada since President Obama has taken office. At what point will you stop putting the blame on President Bush and start blaming the current president, Barack Obama?
There's plenty of blame to go around. Fact is, I've worked hard to do something to help beleaguered Nevada homeowners. $200 million here to work on mortgages that are underwater. 48,000 people in Nevada now have homes as a result of a legislation that I pushed, first-time home buyers tax credit. We, as a result of my pressure on Bank of America, now have no more foreclosures by them. There's a moratorium there. We have to do more, of course, but we have to understand that they won't be able to do to us again, as I indicated earlier, what they did to us before, because we passed Wall Street reform that will stop these greedy bankers on Wall Street from taking advantage of homeowners.
Do you think President Obama shares as much blame as President Bush?
Of course not. You know, Mitch, when President Bush took office, He had a surplus over 10 years of $7 trillion. We were paying down the debt during the Clinton years. We paid down the debt by $600 billion. So we're in this hole, and we're trying to dig out of it. We lost 8 million jobs during the Bush years. We've created 3.5 million of them. There's a long ways to go, and no one's satisfied where we are. But let's realize where we were and how far we've come. That's no solace to somebody that's been lost a job or a home. But we've made progress.
Mrs. Engel.
The housing bubble was caused a long time before this recent recession. And it has to do with things that we have refused to deal with in our Senate, that Senator Harry Reid has refused to deal with over the years. The first one is that we have a problem with the Federal Reserve. We need a true audit of the Federal Reserve. Secondly, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae have never been really truthfully dealt with. They've kept sweeping that away and away and away. In fact, in this last finance reform bill, we could have dealt with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, but they said no, it was too big a problem to deal with. We need to start looking at these and looking at true solutions. And first, we have to investigate what caused the problem in the first place. Certainly, this problem has been going on ever since Senator Reid has been in leadership, and that was before the Obama administration, but they've failed to deal with it in the Obama administration as well.
Thank you, Senator Reid. 30 seconds.
We do have a commission. We have a Las Vegas, Byron Giorgio, and Heather Murin on that to find out what really happened to the collapse. So we're on top of that. The Federal Reserve, I called for a Federal Reserve audit in 1987. So I agree with my opponent on that. There should be a Federal Reserve audit. We haven't gotten it yet. But we've made some progress in that regard. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, all experts say it needs reform, but you can't do away with them, for heaven's sakes. We would have no way of even sustaining the housing market we have today.
Thank you. Next question goes to you, Mrs. Engel, and it is on unemployment. You were quoted as saying, quote, "You can make more on unemployment than you can going down there and getting one of those jobs. That is an honest job, but it doesn't pay as much. We have put in so much entitlement into our government that we really have spoiled our citizenry," end quote. Two questions. Number one, do you think the unemployed are spoiled? And then Hugh from Carson City wants to know what you plan to do to fix the unemployment problem, especially if you believe that getting jobs for Nevadans is not your job.
Well, first of all, no, I don't think that our unemployed are spoiled, and that was totally mischaracterized by my opponent. However, he did call us that want to know what the answers are selfish children. We need to get Nevada back to work. And the way we do that is by encouraging the private sector to do what they do best, with policies from the government that give them confidence that they can go forward. Right now, they're in a cloud of uncertainty, and they're holding back $2 trillion that they would like to invest in jobs for Nevadans and Americans. But they're holding back because of more taxation and regulation coming out of Senator Reid's administrative policies.
Okay, let me ask a follow-up. Do you believe that getting jobs for Nevadans is not your job?
I believe that my job is to create the policies that will encourage the private sector to do what they do best, and that is to create jobs.
That would be a no. Okay, Senator Reid, your response?
Mitch, yesterday, day before, we had a company from China come here to create 1,000 jobs. They've already leased the warehouse. They're going to make LED lighting. They're going to build windmills. That's a result of tax policy that I put in a bill. We have now almost $2 billion worth of work going on in Nevada with renewable energy jobs. That's a result of tax policy, incentives to have them do that. McCarran Airport, as a result of tax policy, we have a $3 billion project going on there today. Harrah's, as a result of language in a bill there, we saved 31,000 jobs at Harrah's alone. All these things I've talked about today, my opponent is against those. She wouldn't do that. My job is to create jobs. What she's talking about is extreme. We have to do this. We've been doing it since Boulder Dam was created 81 years ago. We started the construction.
Okay, and your response?
Once again, Harry Reid, it's not your job to create jobs. It's your job to create policies that create the confidence for the private sector to create those jobs. And they have lost confidence because of things like Obamacare. There's a business in Reno where he wanted to hire 5 more employees, but instead laid off 5 just because of the provisions in Obamacare. We're seeing those kinds of policies actually crush our economy over the last 20 months.
Okay, the next question goes to Senator Reid, and this has to do with the Supreme Court. One of the most important duties given to a U.S. Senator by the Constitution is the approval of an individual to a lifetime appointment to the U.S. Supreme Court. So we can get a sense on how you would vote. Name a current or former Supreme Court justice you admire and why, and name a current or former Supreme Court justice who should never have been approved by the Senate.
This may surprise everyone, and I got a little criticism for doing this. I don't agree with Scalia's opinions lots of times, but he is a masterful mind. He does good things. So Scalia has done a job. I don't agree with his opinions, but he's really an example to anyone who appreciates the law. Whizzer White. I liked him because of his opinions, but also because he's an all-American football player. And we can go back to the early days of this country. There were opinions written dealing with slavery that were totally wrong. I want to say before my time's up, however, my opponent keeps talking about Obamacare. Remember, 30,000 small businesses in Nevada have the ability to get health insurance supplements. That is, if they have an insurance policy that costs X number of dollars, they can get a reduction up to 35 to 50% on that. She keeps talking about somebody losing their employee because of health care. I would be happy to sit down and talk to them, explain to them that's not necessary. They should be able to do much better now because of health care. So they simply aren't doing better because they don't understand the law.
Okay. You have the Supreme Court question now.
The Supreme Court. I admire Clarence Thomas because he understands his constitutional boundaries as a judge in the Supreme Court, and that's what we need. We need justices that will sit on the Supreme Court and do their duty constitutionally, not legislate from the bench. I would not have confirmed Elena Kagan or Sonia Sotomayor, and that reason is because neither one of them understand the Constitution and have said that they would vote against things like our Second Amendment rights. Those are things that are dear to us as Americans. We know that our founding fathers wanted Supreme Court judges who would stand up for the Constitution, a Constitution that was created for we the people to be free.
Yeah. And Senator Reid?
I think we should stop running down the Supreme Court. I don't agree with all the opinions. Take, for example, Gore versus Bush. That was an opinion I disagreed with, 5-4 opinion. That had the hanging chad and all that stuff. But I believe in our country. I believe in our Constitution, which I have in my pocket here. That decision said a lot. Even though I disagreed with the opinion, when they ruled, immediately George Bush became my president. There was no windows broken, no riots. That's what our country's all about, a rule of law. And we should leave the Supreme Court alone and pick the best lawyers we can find to go on the court.
Okay, we're going to talk about Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and you get the first question, Mrs. Engel. A federal judge's order to halt enforcement of the military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy was hailed by gay activists as a landmark ruling in their struggle to expand their rights. Don't you think it's time to end discrimination of gays and lesbians in our military? First question. Second question, how do you feel about such Republicans as Dick Cheney and Laura Bush coming out in favor of gay rights?
The policies within the military, especially this one, are under review right now, and we should be waiting for the review of our military to make those decisions, not jumping ahead and making those decisions as Senator Reid tried to do when he put that provision in the defense bill. We here in Nevada have been very careful to define the marriage as between a man and a woman through 2 general elections. Over 70% of our population has voted to define marriage as between a man and a woman. I support what Nevada has done, and I will represent our constituents on that basis.
And what do you think about Republicans such as former Vice President Dick Cheney and First Lady Laura Bush coming out in favor of gay rights?
That, of course, is their personal opinion and their prerogative. Every American has the freedom of speech, and they have